Hello and welcome back to ELA Tuesday for 3rd through 6th grade. My name is Sherry and today we're going to look at character interactions. We've done this before, now we're going to do it a little bit deeper at a level. We're going to look at two characters in the book Pink and Say. We're going to actually look at Pink and we're going to look at Say. So this is Pink, that's a nickname, and this is Say, which is also a nickname. We're going to look at how they interact together and how each character changes based on their interactions together. So Pink and Say. When Sheldon Russell Curtis told this story to his daughter, Rose, she kept every word in her heart and was to retell it many times over her lifetime. Sheldon had been injured in a fierce battle and was left for dead in a muddy, blood-soaked pasture somewhere in Georgia. He was a mere lad of 15 and he lay there for 2 days. By his reckoning, only to slip into unconsciousness and fever on and off throughout the 2 days. He was rescued from the field by another lad who had been separated from his company. I will tell you in my own words, as nearly as I can, said Rosa. I watched the sun edge toward the center of the sky above me. I was hurt real bad. For almost a year, I'd been in this man's war, the war between the states it was. Being just a lad means a young kid, right? I was wishing I was back home. My leg burned and was angry from the lead ball that was lodged in it just above my knee. I felt sleepy and everything would go black every once in a while. And then I'd wake up again. I wanted to go back to our farm in Ohio, and sometimes when I'd fall into one of those strange sleeps, I'd be there with my ma, tasting baking powder biscuits fresh out of her wood stove. And then I heard a voice. For a moment I thought I was feverish and dreaming, but then I felt strong hands touch my brow and splash water on my face. Being here, boy, means you gotta be dead, the voice said as he gave me a drink from his kit. Where you hit? 'Cause if it's a belly hit, I gotta leave you here, he said. I had never seen a man like him so close before. His skin was the color of polished mahogany, and he was flying Union colors like me, my age maybe. His voice was soothing and his help was good. Hit in the leg, I told him. Not bad if I don't go green. Can you put weight on it? He asked as he pulled me to my feet. We got to keep moving. If we stay in one spot, marauders will find us. They're riding dragon looking for the wounded. Marauders are soldiers that actually look for people that are on the battlefield, hurt, right? Next thing I remember was collapsing in a heap on the ground and rocking with the pain in my leg. Everything started to go black, and then I remember him pulling me on his back. I heard him say, Lord have mercy, child, you are as bad off as I am. I'll tote you, yeah. I can't rightly leave you here. I remember being pulled and carried and stumbling. I remember hard branches snapping back in my face and mouths full of dirt as we hit the ground to keep from being seen. I remember slogging through streams, hauling up small bluffs and belly crawling through dry fields. I remember these things in half sleep-like, but I do remember being carried in a powerful long way. So that's the first interaction, right? The first interaction is that Say saves Pink on the battlefield, right? And carries him off so he's not hurt or caught by the soldiers. You can see that interaction there. Then fever must have took me good because I could feel a cool, sweet-smelling quilt next to my face. Soft, gentle, warm hands were stroking my head with a cool, wet rag cloth. Look at that morning that's coming, a woman's voice said as she spooned oat porridge into me. Do your mama know what a beautiful baby boy she has? Where am I? Is this heaven? I said. She tossed her head and laughed. No, child, Pink has brung you home to me. Don't you remember? The mahogany child, I thought. Both you children been on the run for days, and a miracle of God Almighty brung you both here. Yes, indeed, child, a miracle it did. I remember thinking, could this war have been so close to this lad's home? I couldn't imagine having a war right in his backyard. I looked over and saw him looking out the window light. Guess you don't remember much, he said. I'm Pincus Ali, fought with the 48th Colored. Found you after I got lost from my company. My name is Sheldon Curtis, I said weakly. This is my mother, sweet Momo Bay, he said as she smiled at me. Lord, 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 I had never thought I'd see my dear boy again, she said as she hugged him. I've been getting along though, Pincus. Warm things got left in the big house when the family left. Dry goods too. The rest I've been getting from the woods. There's a freshwater spring down the road. Still have some chickens, even got an old cow out back that still gives milk. Then you've been all alone here? Pincus asked his mother. Where is everybody? Your daddy runned off to fight a month ago. All the hands and their children runned off and out of harm's way. But I stayed. I prayed to the Lord every day. I said I couldn't go away until I ain't gonna leave until my Pinkus comes home. You ain't never gonna leave your mama again, are you, child? Pinkus looked troubled and didn't answer. I'm going down to the stream and pound these clothes of yours, she said as she readied to leave us. If you hear marauders, come and get for the root cellar door and stay down there till they gone. That's what I've been doing. Marauders here? Pinkus said with alarm. They've seen there's nothing here for them, child. Nothing. As soon as she left us, Pinkus sank to my bedside. And here's going to be another interaction, right? You know that because the author writes, as soon as she left us, Pinkus sank to my bedside. So you know the characters are going to interact together. Sheldon boy, he whispered, as soon as you heal up, we got to go away from here. We are putting Momo Bay in great danger just by being here in her house. If they come and find us that she's been holding troopers, his voice trailed off. We got to get back to our outfits if we can find them. You mean back to the war? I asked. I must have gone pale as he went on to say, it's the only way, ain't it? And then he looked at me. Sheldon, you all right? You look bothered. You can call me Say. Everybody in my family calls me Say, not Sheldon. I expect you're my family now. Near enough, Say. Near enough. You can call me Pink. That's what everybody calls me, he said softly as he smiled. So now that's an interaction where they're getting to know more about each other and they're actually sharing their nicknames, which shows that they're getting close. The characters are getting close to each other, right? Because only somebody close to you calls you by your nickname. For the next week, Momo Bay fed us both up good. Raw milk and cornbread never tasted so good in all my born days. It were the first time in months my victuals didn't have any mealy worms in it. She saw to it that I tried to walk a little every day, so's that mean-looking leg don't go stiff on you and cripple up, she'd say. This place wasn't that much different from our farmhouse in Ohio. Maybe poor, maybe. But it smelled the same, like pine boards and good cooking. A mess of beans with salt pork and cornbread and greens and corn and onions. And when we slept, she sat near us, stoked the fire, and watched over us. Whew, never thought I'd feel safe enough to sleep deep again. My mother and Kalo, my father, jumped the broom on this very spot, Pink said as he walked me back on my first day outdoors. And that there was the master's house. Master Ali, Pink said. How come you have his last name, I asked. Boy, when you're owned, you ain't got no name of your own. Even Kalo had to take that name. As we rested under the willow tree, Pink asked me about my family back home. See the interaction between the two? They're getting to know more about each other. Got one brother still at home to help run the place for Pa, I answered. What was your outfit again? The Ohio 24th, I carried the staff. Wasn't supposed to carry a gun, but then so many died, even us boys had to carry after so many were slaughtered like hogs. Least you got to carry. In the 48th, we couldn't have guns at first. We fought with sticks and hammers and sledges. Can you imagine not trusting us with our own fight? This here's our fight. I couldn't imagine such a thing. And then when they finally did give us muskets, they were from the Mexican-American War, so they were old. Those muskets jammed and misfired all the time. Then how in God's name can you want to go back, I asked. Because it's my fight. Say, it's my fight. Ain't it yours too? If we don't fight, then who's going to? I had no answer for him, but God forgive him, I didn't want to ever go back. After a few more days, I could walk a little steadier, but still needed some help. Pink took me out by the big house and walked me through it. Master Ali had a library full of books right here. He taught me to read, even though it was against the law. He must have been a good man, I said. More bad than good, Say. Sometimes I think he just liked being read to. There was this book of poetry, Say, that was this thick. Every night I'd read out loud to him from that book. I blessed this house because of all those beautiful books, but I cursed it too for what it stood for. We walked a bit further. To be a slave is a heap of trouble, Say, but after Ali taught me to read, even though he owned my person, I knew that nobody ever could really own me again. You feel hot, Pink. Lord, I think you're as sick as me. Let me fetch you back to the house. I'll be fine, boy. Just a little tired, that's all. I'll be ready to fight, though. I'll be ready to fight soon. That night, after we ate, Momo Bay came back to the table with a worn-out Bible. She was so happy my heart ached. Master Ali showed me how paper talks. Show him, Pink, she said. He took out a pair of spectacles from his pocket and opened the Bible to the Psalms of David and started to read. His voice was steady and had such wonder in it. Just hearing them words made pictures form in my mind. I surely do wish I could read, I announced to them without thinking. When Pink saw I was ashamed, he took my hand. I'll teach you, Say. Some one day I'll teach you. I could feel my face flushing up, and then I spoke spoke up. I done something important. Of course you have, child. Of course you have, his mother said. I touched Mr. Lincoln's hand. It was near Washington. We were quartered there just before the Bull Run fight. The president himself was shaking people's hands. And I just put my hand right out, and he took it. He took it and shook it. Pink answered. Yep, he took it. Now there's a sign, ain't it? He said, smiling broadly. Touch my hand, Pink. Now you can say you touched the hand that shook the hand of Abraham Lincoln. Next best thing to touching him myself. Most of the next day, Pink was studying an old map. Marauders don't fan out farther than 30 miles or so from their camps, and if they come back here, then their units must be that close. We got to get south of the river, say here. See here, say, we got to get south of the river. That's where the troops are headed. We can meet up with them about here, I suppose. Meet up with who? You ain't leaving, his mother's voice caught. Now, my mother, you knew we couldn't stay here. It's dangerous. You had to know that. No, my babies, my dear babies, you got to stay. She was inconsolable for a minute. Mother, this war has to be won, or this sickness that has taken my land is going to never stop. We have to go. By the look that came into her eyes, she'd known that this day was coming. I could feel my breath catching, my chest heavy. I really didn't want to go back. That night I couldn't sleep. What's wrong, child? Momo Bay said. I don't want to go back, I blurted out. I know, child. Of course you don't. You don't understand. I took up and run away from my unit. I was hit when I was running. I'm a coward and a deserter. She looked at the fire and said nothing for the longest time. You ain't nothing of the kind. You is a child. A child, I say. Of course you're scared. Ain't nobody that ain't. I'm not brave like Pink. I'm not brave. Child, being brave don't mean you're not afeared. Don't you know that? I didn't want to die. There's things worse than death, child, but you got nothing to fear. You are here now, and I'm hugging you up. You're going to be an old man someday. When it's your time, the sweet Lord will send a hummingbird to fly your soul to heaven. Now, you ain't afeared of hummingbirds, are you? Her words brought me to a sweet sleep. The next morning, marauders came. Just as we were making the last sweep of the place, making sure there were no signs of us ever being there, we heard wild screams. Marauders! Get to the root cellar! Said Momo Bay. They ain't no truck with the old dark woman. You get to the cellar, you hear? Hurry before they're here. Don't come out till I tell you so. We heard the porch steps creak as she ran from the cabin. She's drawn them off, Pink whispered. Uh-oh. Look what happened. We put her in their way by staying here. Now she's dead, Pink cried as he rocked her in his arms. Her eyes were looking in a faraway place as he closed them. Your son loves you, Momo Bay. Your son loves you. After we buried her under the willow tree, we set out. Pink figured we were there for 3 days' walk from the Union troops, and we watched the movement of the sun. I'm going to stop there. If you're interested in finishing some more, the book is called Pink and Say. You can get it at your local library. But let's talk about the interactions between Pink and Say, right? So you notice how each interaction brought them closer to the point where they're almost brothers, right? Each interaction, when they shared a little bit more of each other, they got closer and closer. That's how characters develop together. Pink and Say. See you next time.